talking about Virginia schools just a second ago, became the first in the state to permit teachers to arm themselves as a potential last line of defense against criminals or potential criminals looking to commit very, very serious crimes like massacre, murder, etc., like we saw in Parkland and Santa Fe earlier this year. Unsurprisingly, progressives in Virginia's Department of Education, and as you just heard Carrie mention, Attorney General Mark Herring, who is a very anti-gun Democrat, are upset about this decision. In fact, the Virginia Department of Education says that it's looking over the decision in light of what they say are relevant statutes, and that the Attorney General's office says that the county decision clearly prohibits guns in schools. It's very interesting to watch these bureaucrats work so hard to ensure that teachers in districts that they've never visited have no means to defend themselves or defend their students. Joining me to talk about the details of this plan, as well as the opposition that they're receiving, is Lee County School Board member Brian Austin. Brian, thanks for taking the time to be here with us today. Obviously, this is something that your school district has determined that they want to take a look at. How do you feel about some of the involvement from the state now, from the Attorney General and other bureaucrats who are getting involved in what you all are coming to terms with and discussing how you feel comfortable, how you feel best to address the school safety issue?
You for the opportunity to speak with you this evening, and also clarify one thing. I'm the division superintendent, the CEO, as opposed to the elected school board member. So again, appreciate the opportunity. And as far as feedback from Richmond, first of all, appreciate the support that we get from Richmond. On a financial standpoint, 2 of our 4 school resource officers are partially funded through state grants. We also contribute almost $90,000 to fund those 4 positions, but we have 11 schools. To that end, we are trying to put an armed person in each building, and we are a community that is very, I'm going to say, aware of concealed carry permits, and we're just looking for that opportunity to provide that same level of protection on our school board campuses.
What are you hearing from parents in the district as well?
The feedback that we've gotten, and I met with the sheriff earlier today, has been very positive, very supportive. Concerns that we have had expressed to us is about the who piece of it. Who would be trained? How would we maintain that training? And we've been working very closely with the sheriff's office as well as some private consultants to make sure that we develop a program that is safe as well as provides tremendous safety for our students, but also make sure that we're safe with firearms.
Right, and I always want to bring up too, because there seems to be a lot of confusion at the national level whenever this topic comes up. It's not that anyone is forcing teachers or staff to carry firearms. I mean, these are individuals who are volunteering to, if they feel comfortable carrying on school premises and they're volunteering to do so. Those are the people that you all are working with and discussing these options with, training and doing additional security checks, correct?
That is very accurate. We have almost 700 employees in our school division. We're relatively small, but this would be a voluntary force. This is not a condition of employment for any of our staff other than the school resource officers who are already sworn deputies employed by the sheriff's office.
What do you tell those individuals who either are resisting this security plan or this type of response to these problems that we see, these awful things that we see cropping up in schools? What do you tell those individuals to maybe perhaps put them at ease or give them some insight or give them peace of mind as to how you're planning to address the issue of school security?
I think there's just been several examples, especially recently, from Parkland to Indiana, where teachers have tried to be proactive in protecting their students, trying to be proactive in protecting the staff, but they've not been able to do so. And I'm going to say our school board's been very progressive. I know some school divisions have armed staff with buckets of rocks and bats, and our community, again, is very some of our staff is very proficient with firearms, and this would just give them the ability to protect themselves on school board property as well as on in public and on their private property.
Absolutely. And I would imagine in addition to this, not just making sure that teachers are trained and armed, but also some of the programs. I mean, one of the big discussions that we've had nationally and continue to have after Parkland are these certain behavioral programs that some districts have implemented in which they're looking to reduce the school to prison pipeline, and as a result, certain, even felonious behavior may not be reported to police. Is that something that you've all taken a look at, and you've determined a program such as that isn't in your school, or you have a way to deal with those troubled students who may at some point pose a danger to themselves or others?
Well, I'm going to say in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we're very proactive in that, and we have a very good mechanism for addressing those concerns. But the thing that I want to say, frankly, is our school board, as well as our Department of Education, is very proactive in making sure that we have resources available to individuals from a mental health standpoint. We also work very closely with a couple of agencies who serve our community very, very well, I'll say, and we're going to work very proactively to address issues in advance of it escalating to this point. But again, this is just a measure that we're taking. It's a layer of our school security, not intended to be a panacea of a solution. We are continuing to secure our doors, provide SROs, as well as additional threat assessment training. But we're just, again, adding this as a layer of protection, not necessarily intended to be a one solution.
Yeah, and you can't have, I think that's the best kind of security plan. It has to be multi-layered. And honestly, in talking with so many school administrators from across the country, it's amazing to hear how many schools are looking to make sure that they have double locking doors, because up until now they haven't had anything like that. Or maybe perhaps they didn't have a system in place where they could call a code red, and they weren't quite sure how to handle anything of that nature. So for many schools, that's just the first step.
Well, the Code of Virginia requires that we do at least 2 lockdown drills a year. So our staff has become very, I'm going to say, cognizant of threat assessments, but then also aware of how to react. We are very proud of what we do as far as school safety. But again, this is not intended to be a solution. It's just merely another layer of what we already provide. So it's not something that I'm going to say we're proud of trying to do. We really didn't intend to be the first one in the Commonwealth of Virginia to attempt this, but we just again found it as a solution that would be viable for us, because we can't afford to put a school resource officer in every one of our buildings.
Yeah, that is a hurdle that is pushing school districts to think of other different ways to tackle this and add additional layers of security on. Brian Austin, thank you so much for joining us on this issue. Appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you again.